The goal of the show is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every single week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. We also post advertising news you need to know in 60 seconds or less weekdays on our LinkedIn. If you're not following us on LinkedIn, you should be. It's fun. We add in a lot of sound effects, and it's good for you to talk with your peers, your professors, or if you're in the industry with your coworkers or clients. So follow us on LinkedIn if you're not already. Today, you're going to learn from Joslyn Summerset, Group Account Director at DCX Growth Accelerator. This growth accelerator we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about Joslyn's career, but really high level, this growth accelerator, this company is here to help brands on the strategy side of things. No longer can you just identify demographics for consumers and call it a day. You can't just focus in on how much people make, if they're married or not, where they live. It's not enough because everybody is so different and there is no monolith of culture anymore. You need to know what they're interested, who they're following, what makes them tick. And DCX Growth Accelerator does that so well. They've done it with Ben & Jerry's and Newman's Own for a long time now. And Joslyn talks about their culture, how they work, and how she lives in Mexico, which is fun. And towards the end, she gets fairly vulnerable, and I really appreciate that. Talking about burnout in the ad industry, signs to identify if you're approaching burnout and what to do. And I really appreciate that as a business owner, being in New York City where things are moving fast. You feel like you have to hustle all the time, and how that might not be that healthy. So Joslyn's fantastic to reach out to if you want to join the account track, or if you're working in the ad industry, you want to work in the ad industry, or you want to work with them. She talks about how you can reach out to her directly at the end of the show. If you like what you hear, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave 5 stars as a review. Now on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. And as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right, Joslyn Summerset, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Gino?
Doing well. You are calling in from Mexico, is this correct?
I am. I live full-time in Playa del Carmen, which is a little outside Cancun.
Incredible. Weather, how is the weather over there?
It is always sunny. Sometimes it's very hot. Right now it's bearable, so I'm not complaining.
Lovely, lovely. So we'll probably get into that, where you're from, how you got into all this, but really I want to focus on DCX and what it's like being a group account director there, how you broke into this industry, and all your best advice for the next generation. How does that sound, Joslyn?
Let's do it. I love it.
Wonderful. Then high level, tell me about DCX. What is the company? What do you all do? Give me the rundown.
Sure. So we are very small. We're about 10 full-time people. A lot of very, very seasoned vets in the industry. Our founder is Doug Cameron. He's been around for a very long time. He actually wrote a book called Cultural Strategy, which is really the backbone of our agency. I'm looking at it. I have it on my desk. My boss is staring at me all day. It's a great book. But yeah, so cultural strategy is the backbone of what we do. We're strategy consultants first, and then we also do your run-of-the-mill kind of full-service agency stuff at a smaller scale. We like to say we're the smallest global agency in the industry. So a lot of our clients come to us for cultural strategy, which is kind of something that Doug was one of the pioneers of way back in the day. The best way I can describe cultural strategy is kind of the shift the industry took, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago from demographics to psychographics, the way that we look at consumers, right? It's no longer these surface attributes of how many kids do they have? How much money do they make? Where are they from? What race are they? And more about people's ideologies and how they believe and what drives their purchasing behavior. So cultural strategy, which a lot of brands aren't great at, right? A lot of brands are still kind of stuck in these very traditional demographics of their consumers, and they're not infiltrating culture. And the most successful brands we see nowadays are in culture. They are culture. They're creating culture. So that's what we try and do. We try to invigorate brands, inject them into culture, find the intersection of their consumer and culture, and give them kind of a wave that they can continue to ride. Second to that,
Totally.
we do a lot of creative stemming from the cultural strategy work that we do.
Totally. Yes. All that research is so important. I mean, defining the audience and the segmentations within. I mean, it's crazy. I feel like there's no like monolith of culture anymore. There's so many niche communities out there, microcultures, whatever you want to call them, uh, that you can tap into. It's like that identification process of what they read, what they watch, what they're scrolling on, who they're following. All of that is so important. Like, how do you even like begin to navigate this whole process?
Research. So it's a lot of research, and we do a lot of talking to consumers. We do a lot of my strategy team. I work with some really brilliant strategists, but they talk to people, which having worked at much bigger agencies, sometimes you see that and sometimes you don't. But it's a tool that we always utilize. We want to talk to the people buying the product and understand what drives them, what keeps them up at night. So we normally always start with consumer research.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So who are some of the clients, I mean, if you're allowed to say, that you work with or have worked with? And I know that's a touchy subject, but also then like what are they asking for?
Hmm.
They're coming to DCX for what?
Cultural strategy.
Okay.
um, Everyone loves Doug as well. I will say, and I'm not ashamed to say it, but I came to DCX for two reasons. Um, well, three reasons. A very good girlfriend of mine who I've worked with at like multiple agencies was working at DCX, and she had so many good things to say about the agency. Also, Doug Cameron, he's a genius. I love working with him. He's just kind of like a unicorn. And three, one of our biggest clients is Ben and Jerry's. And that for me personally was such a pull. I think that, at least for me, I found in my career, like working in this industry, working really hard and long hours feels so much better when you're doing it for a client that's doing good. And Ben and Jerry's is like the pinnacle. So Ben and Jerry's is one of the clients I work on. They have a really long relationship with the agency. Also Newman's Own. They're Paul Newman's brands. They're
Yeah.
social mission brands. They give 100% of their profits um, back back into an organization that helps children. Um, those are probably two of my favorite brands, but
Yeah. Those are
yeah,
great. Those are fantastic brands.
they
And I mean,
are.
you're touching on a key point for the aspiring advertisers out there. It's all about the people. So like Doug Cameron and your friend like spoke highly of it. You're going to want to work with good people. But then the
Mhm.
other component of that is who are the clients you're working with, and there's alignment there in what you were looking for. So that makes so much sense of why DCX for you. And then that cultural strategy, that offering. So it's more so like on the consulting side at first, but with the ability to execute and create creative deliverables. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Understood. Understood. And then are there some scenarios where you're creating like the strategy for the brands and then they go to different agencies? Do you like to keep it all in house? How does that kind of operate?
Yeah. So it's funny because it's rare in the industry, right? Like, um, strategists are creative. Strategy is creative, right? Especially in this industry. So it's it was different for me coming to an agency where, yes, we do that sometimes. We'll do an amazing cultural strategy or a brand positioning for a client that's really big and has so much potential. And then we'll wrap the baby up and send them on their way, and pray that they execute in a way that continues that vision. A lot of times at creative agencies, that's the one hard rule, right? Like it's your baby, you hold on to it, you want to execute it. And sometimes it's just not, we found, being a smaller agency, that's not the most efficient thing for our client. And sometimes it's not what we want to do. I think we really enjoy the strategy portion. And even if it is your idea or someone else's, a lot of times ideas ideas break down in the execution phase. It's the hardest part, right? Carrying that red thread through until it's in front of someone on their phone. So we're not precious. Sometimes we do both.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a good model today because we're seeing a lot of agencies. We're seeing a lot of brands develop their own in-house agencies, and they have like some full-time creatives on the staff. So if you have, but it lacks some of that nuanced third-party neutral perspective strategy where you're coming in, delivering those insights, a strong platform where it could be for social, it could be a big idea where it can be, your team can execute it, the in-house agency can execute it, or a larger creative agency might be able to execute it too. But it really starts with the idea and the strategy behind it. And I feel like DCX is put in a good position to succeed in this changing landscape. So
Thank you.
incredible. And like, where are you guys headquarters? Is it remote? Like, you're in Mexico, so that's probably also that like flexibility there, I'm assuming. Tell us about like the culture, and then smaller shop. How do you guys work together?
Yeah, so we are based out of Brooklyn. Our office is in Bedside, so we do have a physical office, quite
Mhm.
literally a brick and mortar. We're in like an old, I think it's an old coffee factory.
Cool.
Uh, Very advertising.
Hmm.
So, so most of my team is in New York. There's two of us. There used to be three of us. We were working with an account director that was living in Italy. That was temporarily living in Italy. I'm in Mexico, and then we have a creative director who's in Belfast in Ireland. Outside of that, everyone is sprinkled around New York. Um, I travel. I come back quite often to see my team, and we get together when we need to. But for the most part, we're online. I think a few times a week, people go into the office when they would like to, but we have found a pretty efficient way and successful way of collaborating online. So,
Great. And your position specifically as the group account director, what are you doing? You're wrangling, you're talking with clients. Can you help the audience understand what a group account director does?
yeah, absolutely. And I will say, at a smaller agency, the scope of what I do might look a little bit different than at a larger agency. But traditionally, a group account director is an account director that's just managing a group of clients. So I'll oversee, anywhere from 3 to 5 clients, and normally I'll, depending on the scope of the work, I'll have like an account director or maybe an account executive working beneath me and helping support me in the day-to-day maintenance of the account, so that I can kind of look a little bit higher level and a little bit further out. So I'm going to be building relationships with client directors and above. It could be VPs or seniors or even CMOs, and making sure that what we're doing on the daily aligns with their plans 1 year or 2 years out. Um, from a client perspective, I'm making sure that we deliver on our relationship, because that's going to set us up for the next possible project, and giving our relationship some sort of longevity. I also do that internally too, right? So account people or brand people really manage every aspect of the project. It's not just clients, it's also your team internally. So it's making sure that my leadership team is plugged into what's happening on my accounts, whether they're healthy, whether we need leadership to step in and help us course correct or help me build relationships that could be really valuable to the agency. It's also like digging really deep on the health of my team, right? Do they have what they need to deliver what it is that's coming up that's ahead of us?
Totally. That insight is so important for our audience because I feel like the aspiring advertiser looking to break in for the first time might think they're going to be doing that high level stuff right away, but that takes years and years, and a lot of experience and success to have that trust to be thinking that high level. You will be doing more so the day to day stuff when you're starting off in an agency. Um, so I always put that out there when I do one on one conversations, and you're just proving that like it takes some time. So I do want to get into how you broke into all of this, and what was the point where you said to yourself, I want to be a part of the ad making process for a living?
Oh no. I'm gonna be really honest. I don't know if I ever said that, Jano.
I know. That's why I say this question all the time.
Okay, so fun fact about me, I have three siblings. I am a middle child. Well, my little brother is my stepbrother, but there's three of us, and somehow we all work in advertising. I couldn't tell you how it happens. My parents didn't work in the industry, but there's three of us. We're all in the industry, which is pretty cool because I have an amazing support system with the two of them. Um, but so my older sister was already in the industry when I was finishing college. And there's like a natural kind of, competitiveness between us. So I
Yeah.
like did not want to go into advertising because I was like, I don't want her to think that I'm just like, following after her in her footsteps. I wanted to go into the film industry. I wanted to direct, but I couldn't get into film school. So I ended up doing like a mixed media film and television degree at ASU, which I really enjoyed and actually set me up really well for this industry. And then out of college, I was looking for kind of anything that sounded interesting because I didn't get into film school tier. Um, and one of my friends sent me a job that was at an Omnicom agency, a digital agency. This is like 15 years ago when everyone was like learning what programmatic was and like paid social media, and it was like all the rave. So I started at a digital shop at Omnicom in LA. And I liked it. I think I just found my niche. So I don't know if I ever said like this is what I want to do. This is what invigorates me, but I fell into something I was really good at. And then once I made the shift from digital over to a creative, I mean, I'm a creative myself. I've always been a creative. I write, I paint. Once I got to a creative shop is when I was like, oh, these are my people. And that's
Yeah.
when I think it clicked.
How long did it take you from the media side of things, media agency, to hop over to creative?
I mean, thank God, what a blessing. I was poached. Poaching is a real thing. I was not
It's
looking.
amazing. If you're doing a
It's
good job, you should be getting phone calls. Like,
yeah,
and it's never as hard as your first job. I tell people like, your first job is so hard to get. Like, you have to apply.
yeah,
It's like competitive.
very
The job market might be down, but once you're in, if you do a good job, you promote
yeah.
yourself and you like, publicize what you're doing properly. You have a good resume, then phone calls should be coming your way.
Yeah, and especially it's hard because a lot of agencies don't post their openings because they get
Mm-mm.
so many applications. Um, Yeah, so I don't know if I would have made, I mean, maybe eventually I would have, but I was at the digital shop for maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and I had to take a step back. So I had already done a couple years at an entry level position,
Yep,
and 72 and Sunny was the agency that reached out to me, which was on fire at the time, and they knew people were banging down their doors to get in there. So
for
they
sure.
offered me a position that was it was entry level, and I wasn't entry level, but I took it, and it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made.
How did they? Why do you? Why do you think they called you? Obviously, you're doing a great job, but like, what were the connections there? Were you posting? Were you like, how did they discover you?
That's funny. So I've been very blessed in my career to work on brands that I think attract recruiters. I mean, I've worked on Target, I've worked on General Mills, I've worked on Nike, I've worked on, these huge machines that run agencies, really, like they keep the lights on. They're
Yep,
massive accounts. So when I was at my digital agency, I was working on Nike. And so I think that when you work with a client like that, you develop certain skills, and I'm sure this is part of 72 and Sunny's strategy, but they asked me to fill an entry level role knowing I wasn't entry level. So I
right.
think they kind of set me up for success. They knew I was already there. I already knew what I was doing to an extent. And they maybe weren't taking a risk on someone who was just out of college.
Yeah, and it costs less. I mean, from a business side too. Like, I hate to say it, but like, and they knew that they had that that was a hot shop. There was high in demand, and they still are today.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, they can get away with stuff like that. Um, where you should have probably been at a higher level, but you also
Yeah.
were set up for success too.
Yeah.
So,
And I definitely won't knock 72. I mean, I know that they have a reputation for working people extremely hard. But I spent a little under 4 years there, and I have to say that like it was the backbone of what made me a good account person, the
Oh yeah.
level of collaboration there, the type of clients that they have, and regardless of how hard you work, I think the values they've built that shop on just taught me what it meant to work in the creative industry.
Yeah, that's an amazing shop. And I think I'll like thinking about this, like if you don't get into that dream creative agency right away, then like you might have to go media or you might have to do something adjacent, but try to get on the best client as possible if you're
Yeah.
not in that creative agency and do a really good job there and develop those connections. Like you still have conversations. It looks good on the resume. So I think that all is a sound strategy because we're being realistic. A lot of our listeners want to work at a 72 and Sunny or
Mhm.
um, I don't know what are other good shops. Tombras was number one. Number two was Mischief. Number three was Anomaly. Number four was High Dive. Like they want to work. They see the A list. They want to work there, but it's flooded with applications. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like this is good advice to hear.
Yeah. I think the other thing I'll say is like how I took a step back, and it sucks. Don't You will make it up, right? Like the good thing about advertising is these big brands have lots of money to spend and you can earn a lot of money for how hard you work in this industry. So if you do have to take a little bit less than you'd like to in the beginning, I think things will right themselves later in your career. I remember 72 and Sunny had like an internship program where it was 6 months and you did not get paid. And people would come from all over the world, really young and also really older, seasoned people just to get their foot in the door. So I think that like if you're if you have somewhere you really want to be, do whatever it takes to get in there because at some point I think we have to separate doing what we love and like monetary value, right? Eventually
Mhm.
they come together and that's the
Yes.
goal, to be able to make money doing what you love. But sometimes you have to make small sacrifices and I think those sacrifices in this industry can get you really far.
Totally. It's like my perspective is definitely changing as I've done this show for 5 years. And I've heard so many stories, and I used to be like, get whatever job you can by the time you graduate and like break in, and then you'll figure it out along the way, which is fine. But now I'm kind of adopting, like, I'm looking at other industries, um, the medical field, like, people invest in like med school and they like take their time and it takes years and years. Obviously, like, they take out loans and they commit to it.
Mhm.
Any sort of trade or apprenticeship, like, you have to like invest in yourself and learn along the way. Like it's okay, I feel like, in advertising to spend an extra like 4 or 5 months in pausing and really building your skill set with a portfolio or building your own little agency and like trying to get that real client experience on the account side, just like locally. Like take that time, really invest in yourself so you can get into a creative agency is what I would recommend. Like if that's what you want to do, and
Yeah.
you might not get it right away, but that investment, like there should be no shame in investing in yourself, whatever that might be.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I do think that people like we're in a creative industry, you're supposed to show up as yourself, right? Your best self. And the more that you've like invested in yourself, like I remember, I think one of the things that people latched onto, and I remember this, and it was like 15 years ago when I was interviewing at 72 and Sunny, is like this project that I was working on that was I do a lot of DIY and I was living in LA and my neighbor was gutting their house and they had these beautiful antique doors. And I was like, "Can I get one of those?" And I like totally refurbed it and made it into my dining room table. And that was a project that I was like in the throes of when I was interviewing and it just kept coming up and people were so interested in this table door that I was building. So I think that like sometimes fresh out of college, you are still trying to figure out who you are. Defining that's going to be one of your greatest assets, right? So the more that you pour into your own projects and really defining what do I want to do, where do I want to go, I think that's going to come through and make you more interesting to places.
Totally. I love that. Yeah. And they probably kept asking about that because it's interesting and they understood who you were and they wanted, they knew that you could do the job probably like on the
Mhm.
fundamentals side of things, looking at your resume. But then these great agencies have the choice of like, who do we want to work with? Who's interesting? Who's a creator? Who's somebody that, we won't have to like motivate to create stuff and make stuff happen. So you innately had that, and you were able to discuss that in that
Yeah.
interview. And then I'm curious then, like, knowing what you know now, what would you have said to your younger self just getting out of Arizona State to like kind of speed up that process? What would you have said to a young Joslyn?
Wow, that's funny. Probably multiple things, but one of them would have been that, right? Like, I think that going more confidently in the direction that you want to go, right? And not doubting yourself. Um, I'm not necessarily saying that like working at a digital agency like was doubting myself, but I probably knew it wasn't where I wanted to be. Um,
You would have said, I'm reading your mind right now. You would have said, go all in on film.
I still question if I should be working at like a post house or like something on the production side, but I love what I do. But yeah,
Mm.
like should I have just gone all in on like what I was really feeling at that time? But it's hard looking back because I love where I am now.
Yeah.
I have
I
no
mean,
regret.
everything meets up and like happens for a reason, right? And like, even if like you got into film and it didn't work out, you probably would have discovered this and all that. Like you're at where you're supposed to be. So I think that's just fun to look back on. But now, like when you're talking with like college students, recent grads, people entering this industry, like any red flags, things that they should be on be aware of when it comes to the account track specifically.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, again, I have to attribute my account style not just to 72, but all of the great shops that let me be very business and like strategy minded. Don't fall into like the account person tropes that like you're a project manager, you're here to make sure things are delivered on time, and it's all about kind of the traditional sense of account management, right? Because there's a lot of agencies that still subscribe to that, but that's not what's going to get you ahead in your career. At some point, you are going to do the day to day stuff, right? When you're a junior, you are just going to be scheduling meetings. You are just going to be making sure that we're hitting all of our milestones. But I think it's important for you to start very early understanding why those things are important. It's all about the health of the business. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about the health of your relationship and the health of us, right? Like if your team's not healthy, if people are burnt out and tired, your work's going to look like shit. Eventually things are going to implode, right? So I think knowing that like the day-to-day small stuff is all about maintaining a healthy environment, people and the work.
Yeah. And I like the advice to understand the full, like how every little piece adds up to the larger picture and helps the brand. And
Mhm.
like asking like this one little 30-minute stand-up meeting or this meeting that we have on Friday with the client, like why are we having it? What is that going to build to? And how is that going to end up with a great campaign or a great deliverable that's going to help the business? And like what are they, and like understanding that full picture and really asking your whoever is above you those questions is so important.
Yes, absolutely. Ask lots of questions, be a sponge.
We'll love it. So then any other pivotal moments in your career? So the shift to 72 and Sunny, what are other like big career shifts that you made that you think were foundational in your career?
Hmm. Um, moving from LA to New York.
Mm,
I grew up in out around Los Angeles, and I left for college, but like coming back after college and being kind of home was comfortable for me. And when I got the opportunity to move to New York, I mean, I hate to say it, I feel like everyone should live in New York at some point in this industry, or at least there are big advertising cities, right? Austin is now coming up, Los Angeles, New York, London, like we know where these places are on the map. Go to the big cities.
hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, taking that jump for me and it was amazing for my career and my personal life. I loved living in New York.
Where'd you live?
I was a Brooklyn girl for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. And then like what
Um,
did that do? what did it unlock? I'm going through this now from Chicago to New York. And I would recommend everybody to check out New York and live there. And I'm 6 months in, and I'm definitely like working harder, more focused. I'm a little bit meaner for sure.
Yeah.
Like I got
No.
like a little elbow bump developed now. But
Oh,
what did it do for you?
Um, the first thing it did was change my perception of New York. New Yorkers were much nicer than I thought. So for coming from SoCal, but
Mhm.
I think I think it motivated me. It gave me like a hunger that is we just don't have on the West Coast. I hate to say that, but like the people I worked with in the walls of my agency were just like such hustlers. Um, and I think it kind of ignited a little fire in me. I think the whole city kind of does that.
Yeah,
It's always
you have to work hard there, like
well,
in the
also it's the
city.
city that never sleeps, right? So it always feels like people are doing something. Your thing is just advertising, right? It kind of makes you there's this pace that the city moves with that makes you feel like you have to keep up, which
Mhm.
you do. So
And
yeah,
advertising, you have to kind of keep up in general. So being in the city that it's really fast, it does help.
yeah.
Um, and then, like, when did you decide? When did you say that enough is enough? Like, I have that now. Like, it changed like the way that I work. I have that innately now. When did you say, all right, I'm good?
Um, I think that I was young when I moved to New York. I think um I had just turned 30 and I think I went a little hard, a little too hard too fast, right? And I was there for a few years. But I mean, I can be honest, right? You're going to reach your burnout at some point in this industry. I have been there multiple times. I think the important thing is identifying the signs of burnout and not letting yourself get there, and communicating because your bosses are going to understand. Everyone has been burnt out in this industry, unfortunately. So, yeah, I just kind of burned out a few times, and I'm just gonna have to be honest. I left for a guy, Gino.
There we go. Hey, that's life. This is a life podcast.
I left for my college sweetheart. I actually ended up
Oh,
going back to Arizona to get back with my college sweetheart, and we had dated off and on for like a decade.
mhm.
And I thought that I was leaving the industry. I was tired. I thought I was going to get married and have babies. And let's just say that did not happen. I'm not married and I don't have children.
Got it.
So
Got it.
I kind of took a little break and then COVID hit and I was being very domestic and then we broke up and I went back to advertising.
Yeah, and that probably was a great um like a break from the industry and like reset, and you recentered like your perspective on work and how to
Absolutely.
approach it. Pair that with a pandemic where everybody's questioning employer to employee relationships and
Hmm.
that work life balance. And that was a big renaissance, I feel like, in the way that we approach work.
Yeah.
um trying getting a job, and like that was weird. Like graduating in 2020, 5 years ago, was so weird. And
Yeah.
like I wanted to hustle. I wanted to be in the office every day, and I couldn't. And then it was like this weird, like digital, like virtual, like I was getting like for my first job, getting Teams messages and pinged at all hours, and I like liked it, but I was also like lacking that connection. So that's a whole other podcast. But that thank you for what are those signs of burnout? Real quick, let's list them out. Like for me, it's like the work just ends up like turning into shit. Like I'm
Oh yeah.
working long hours and like I'm producing nothing good. Like I'm just like forcing myself to like write an email or write a LinkedIn post, and it's just not looking good. Like
Yeah.
efficiency is just way off.
Yeah, efficiency is off. I noticed the same thing. Like I'll go back and read emails that I wrote and I'm like, I wrote this. So like um quality of work goes down.
Yeah,
Um
but it feels like you're working so hard. Like
yeah.
you're putting in extra hours into it, but the quality is just not showing up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the saying rings true. It's like quality over quantity, right? And like
Mhm.
and as a anyone in this industry, that's something that you have to like fight for as a boundary. is like, hey, I can only do so much and do it well. If you start giving me more than that, my quality of work is going to go down.
Totally.
Um, and
Clear signs.
lack of motivation, right? Like going from a job that you really loved, and advertising is fun. You should be having fun. If you're not having fun, something is wrong. You're doing it
That's your
wrong.
LinkedIn bio.
That is my LinkedIn bio. That's all it says. It's also a baby picture of me. Have fun. And if that's gone, something's not right.
Mhm.
Lack of motivation, not wanting to come into the office, or like vice versa on the weekends. If you're like hibernating and not hanging out with any of your friends because you're so tired at the end of the week. And also, I would say we're not built to work 7 days a week. You have to have a day of rest. If you're going months at a time and even if it's just like cracking open your laptop on Sunday mornings to get ahead on Monday, like, no, I have a firm rule that at least one day, zero work. I don't look at my emails. I don't look at my phone. You need that to reset. If you're not giving yourself that, you're going to lead yourself to burnout.
I love it. Well, then we'll leave it as a cliffhanger. I want people to reach out to you, Joslyn, and I'm sure a lot of people are feeling the same way. Whether they're looking into whether they want advice on the account track or they want to learn more about what's going on at DCX, I think, or how to approach burnout. They're identifying those signs. What are the next steps? Can they reach out to you if they have further questions? And if so, what's the best way
Totally.
to do it?
Please, please, please. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find me, Joslyn Summerset, on LinkedIn. You can also email me. Do it. jocelyn.s@dcx.nyc. I have to say, like, reaching back is what I call helping the next generation. Advertising is really hard to get into if you don't have a foot in the door or know somebody. So absolutely, like, I'm more than happy to talk to anyone who's interested, who just wants advice, or we're a small agency. We are always flexing up and down with freelancers and hiring all the time. So if I can bring you onto the team, I'll absolutely do it.
Golden. Joslyn, this has been great. I wish you all the best in your career. DCX for success. I'm excited to follow along and see it all take off even further. So thank you for coming on. You did a great job.
Thank you. So nice chatting with you.
Of course.